hopefully you heard her loud and clear, and that is that franchising and is not for the lighthearted. It takes a lot of capital to start it up and to do it right. And I am amazed, Shelly, and I know you've seen it yourself, how so many people are not right for franchising, and some way, somehow, they get convinced that they are, and that the business of franchising puts them out of business. And there are numerous companies that help package these companies, but that is not the right way, as we both know. So a natural question is, how do you determine if your concept is franchise-worthy?
I think, a very thorough feasibility study is critical before spending. It's better to put, $10,000, $20,000 into an in-depth feasibility study before spending $100,000 packaging up something only to find out that, it doesn't have any merit in the longer term. And the most important part, I think, of a feasibility study is there has to be a set of customers that want what you want to sell, and it can't be just localized. There was a concept, I think, many years ago, that started a cinnamon scented chili, I guess, is popular in Cincinnati, and they tried to take that all over the country without understanding that really is only something that people in that part of the country enjoy, and they failed. And so I think it's important to make sure that whatever that you've got, there's a large enough demographic market for it, across the country, eventually around the world. I think secondly as well, you have to do your financial models through the point where you have enough franchisees to cover overhead and make sure you're appropriately capitalized and the business model produces a good ROI for the franchisor. More importantly, you have to model out, hopefully based upon a company-owned store experience from the small business, of if I franchise this and my franchisee performed 25% less to 25% better on the revenue, and then now I have to layer in the fees that they'll have to pay to be a franchisee, could they earn a fair living in a reasonable period of time? The financial viability has to make sense for both franchisor and franchisee, and that's probably the biggest thing that I see in mentoring young franchisors is they really don't even know if their model makes sense or makes money at the franchisee level. And after you're already franchising, that's the wrong time to figure out the answer to that question, because that question will determine what's the appropriate royalty rate. It doesn't matter if everybody else in your sector is charging 8%. If that means the franchisee can only earn a 3% return on profit, can you still make money if your royalty rate is 4 or 5%? You have to be able to model through, and the decisions that you make at the franchisee level to build a solid return are the same ones that are going to have to flow through the franchisor model, and both have to make a solid return for the brand to be viable long term.
Well, one of the things you're alluding to, Shelly, is we both know is a lot of people embark on this method of distribution prematurely. They don't really know what they've gotten themselves into, and for whatever reason, they've started down this path. And I guess we could say many have that mentality of ready, fire, aim, and they find out that this is not right for them, including even their own psychographic. And maybe you can discuss that as well. As you and I know, franchising is a lot like a marriage. And the brutal fact of the matter is it's not right for everyone. You better be very good at certain things to be a good franchisor. So maybe you could talk a little bit about the psychographic of what it takes to be a good franchisor. And I have no doubt you understand what I'm clearly saying here.
Yeah, it's not for the faint of heart. You need to be able to work hard, make the decisions that benefit the many, be able to have the tougher conversations early when a franchisee isn't doing the right things or is underperforming. The right time to have that conversation is the moment that you know it, and you can jointly develop an action plan to help them improve their performance versus 9 months later when they're running out of capital and there's no avenues to pursue to help them exit the system. I think for many franchisors, it's so important to be looking at what is it really going to take, both lifestyle and finances early on. I would almost say that marriages are easier to get out of than franchise contracts. And so making sure that you're doing that with a full assessment. You talked about the kind of the packaging of the national companies, and there's many that are very reputable. I'd say for anybody that's going to look to franchise their business, I would want to know not just recommendations or client references on those that they helped franchise, but which ones did they do the feasibility study for that they told not to franchise? Because a company that tells me they do feasibility studies, but the answer is never no, is a very dangerous proposition, because I think as entrepreneurs, and obviously the people we're talking about have already started company-owned locations. They are small business owners. We're glass half full people, or we wouldn't do what we do every single day. We have to be willing to take some risk. We have to be flexible. We have to find a way to have the answer be yes in some form of what we do every day. So we want to make it work. I think it's critical that those advisors, those consultants that we hire to help us on our journey to grow our businesses have to be as good at saying no as they are at saying yes. And those would be the client references that I think are absolutely critical to want to see and verify on any national company you're going to be looking up to help you package up a franchise opportunity.
Well, I think the fact of the matter is you also, what you're saying, and I'm just paraphrasing you, is you want to get people who are also financially healthy and are going to tell you what you really need to hear, not what you want to hear, because they need your fees. And there's no shortage of really marvelous, marvelous people and suppliers as it relates to the that are involved in the International Franchise Association, as you and I both know. And there's some great individuals as well that will tell you what you need to know. You know, people like a Jerry Darnell and a Stan Friedman and Craig Slavin. I can go on and on and on. These are people that really know their stuff, and they've been around for decades, and they've held countless entrepreneurs, and I have no doubt some of them, including you as well. As we both know, Jerry's a fine man.
Very good friend, absolutely.
One thing also that I thought would be good to talk about is that we've really kind of focused here, Shelly, on being a franchisor. And again, listeners, go out and get her book, Grow Smart, Risk Less. I have no doubt it's going to help you. Its author is my guest, Shelly Sun. And but I thought maybe we could flip hats a minute and go to the franchisee side. As you said, you've been one as it relates to hotels, and you've got no shortage of them yourself. So I think a natural question that you really could help is, who should buy a franchise? You know, when you really look at the profile of a really good franchisee, what do you see?
I think it depends on what concept that they're looking at, because there are some that are owner-operated and there's some that are investor. And so I'll take, ours and apply it to all of those that are owner-operated, because we don't have an investor model today. And so for us, the right type of franchisee for an owner-operator model is they understand it's not going to be 9 to 5. It's whatever the business takes, particularly in the early stages of the business. It's 60, 70 hours a week. You would do that in a new corporate job to learn the ropes. You certainly have to do that, and the right person would want to do whatever they possibly could to see their business get off to the right start, get the right foundation to be able to grow. They understand how to attract and develop talent, so that, a year or two from now, they're not the ones having to work the 70, 80 hours a week. They may by choice if they're a workaholic like me, but they may not have to if they've developed the right talent and they're making a focus to make sure that they're doing that. They're going in with a set of worst-case financial projections, as well as an optimistic set to make sure they're adequately capitalized for the worst set. They're doing lots of validation calls. They're probably talking to 5 to 8 franchisees across the system. Some that are going to be in the top quartile, some are going to be in the middle, and some might be struggling. But they have kind of gone across the spectrum and understood, for the ones that are struggling, what would they do different, or trying to assess what aren't they doing that could make them successful, learn from the top performers. And then the middle, is the system improving? Are the tools and training improving? How do I take advantage of that? How can I not repeat some of the same mistakes? Same thing as we were talking about for the franchisors. Learn from those that have been there and done that. I find that franchise candidates that get to me, late in the process and said they've only talked to 1 or 2 franchisees, that's a real big red flag in me withholding approval of them. If they're not going to make the time to invest in talking to their peers before they buy, how much are they really going to leverage the system to help them be successful after they've already joined the system? And so I think those are kind of multiple different vantage points that we look for, and I think franchisors in general should be looking for and trying to assess who would make a great franchisee. And if they don't want to work that hard, if they're not passionate about being part of a system, then franchising really isn't the right business model for them.
I think also is being part of a team and be willing to follow systems, as you and I know, is a critical discipline. That's why many times those that come out of the service tend to be good franchisees, and you can't want to always teach the franchisor everything. And I find, and hopefully you've seen as well, those that are extremely entrepreneurial do not make good franchisees, and shouldn't be one. But again, listeners, go to her website. You want to learn about her franchise, Bright Star, www.brightstarcare.com. You can learn all about her book. She's got videos there and no shortage of resources to help potential franchisors. Go to www.growsmartriskless.com. That's growsmartriskless.com. And these are great resources, and you'll learn a lot about Shelly and the things that she's trying to do to help other franchisors. But as we're starting to wrap up here, Shelly, one of the things that I also thought was a question that's important to you, and that is you obviously know a lot about branding, and you've done a great job of positioning Bright Star, including for line extension. Maybe you can talk a little bit about the keys to building a great brand.
Absolutely. I think the keys to building a great brand is really putting yourself into your end customer's shoes. What do they want to hear? Where will they be looking? For us, probably 80-90% of our effort goes into building the number of consumers that our system can potentially serve, and only 10 to 20% into franchise development. And so, while both are important, growing through new franchisees and growing the size of our system, we put a very heavy focus on making sure that the experience that someone has when coming to brightstarcare.com is all about helping them take care of a family member, take care of a child, deliver healthcare staffing, and not really kind of in your face, I want to sell you a franchise type of thing. Now, we're in an intimate personal service kind of business. PR is very critical to the growth that we've had. We use a great PR firm, Fishman Public Relations, that have really helped us have a lot of visibility. They help us with award applications. We run Undercover Boss in April of 2011 that had amazing exposure for our franchisees. Over 10 million people got to see our brand. And then we try to think about what can we do to be part of our customer solution. So, we want to be able to have access to the 65 million family caregivers before they even become a potential customer. They're buying our services. So we launched a website platform called Care Together to help them manage their family caregiving needs so that they are able to start getting experience with our brand 1 to 3 years before they actually have a ability or desire to pay for our services. But I think that's part of being part of the market solution. I think a great branding strategy talks about how do I find the customers that are ready now to be my customer, and who might be my customer, months from now, years from now, so I can start getting in front of them now so my system continues to accelerate its growth.
Well, some great advice, and obviously from a wonderful entrepreneur that really has it together, and she's got great support in her co-founder, her husband, J.D. Son, and she's got her hands full, but as she said, she's kind of a workaholic, and those people will outwork any one of us. No shortage of great accolades, including she just received again the top honor, and it's the second year in a row for the WPO. Matter of fact, that relates to the fastest growing woman-led companies, articles in the Journal, Inc. magazine. And Shelly, I never know where the time goes, and hopefully you enjoyed yourself today.
I sure did, Mitch. I really appreciate it.